And I will start the screen sharing. So welcome everyone to the next iteration of the community meeting. Today is March the 22nd. And please don't forget to add your name to the agenda list. So I would like to start the meeting, as always, with the news. First things first, roadmap. So we closed quite several items recently, in particular the installation of the KLT via Helm, the generic metric server, and also the consolidation of examples in a separate repository, plus some documentation and some refactoring in our code base. And so the next items for us to work on are the following. Work on the automatic application discovery, then start to work towards the enhancement proposal for the context propagation across different stages, and some documentation about how to install the KLT and a bit of architecture. And that covers what we did so far. And this is a nice transition towards the following up topic about the status, since we have some releases done. So for Keptn V1, we are about to cook the release 1.3. So it's in preparation. Here we have several bug fixes, small features also added, but most importantly, we bumped a lot of dependencies because recently there were quite some vulnerability in the Go standard library. We make sure to use the latest version of all the Go libraries to avoid these problems. So expect a release soonish. For KLT, we just released on Friday last week version 0.7.0. We didn't make an announcement yet because only the manifest is available. Helm charts have still some issues that maybe Moritz you can cover better since you're working on them, on fixing them.
Yeah, I'm actually in the process of working on it. Yeah, we still have some bugs that we need to resolve. There was some missing values that we didn't auto-generate properly, and we also have some tests that are failing still. So we're still working on that.
Yeah, so we will do the official announcement and everything as soon as we have also our first version of the Helm charts that are working properly.
Yeah. The working version of the Helm chart is going to be 0.2.1.
Yes, nice. Then just to refresh the memory about this Docker Hub problem. Recently, Docker announced that they're changing the subscription model. We currently have a free tier and we applied for the open source tier, but based on, we never know when they will say yes or no to us, we decided to move towards, thanks Maurice for linking the proper issue. So in the short time, we agreed to move everything to the GitHub registry and use that as the default one. Anyway, I want to remind everyone that we are publishing everything in 3 different registries: the GitHub Container Registry, Kai, and Docker Hub. So images are available on all of these frees. We're just changing the default registry. And if you're a maintainer or contributor of one of our repositories, in particular for the contrib and the sandbox org, you might have been tagged here to suggest you to have a look and try to use also another registry to ship your integration for Keptn. And I think this covers pretty well the news. Any questions from the community? I don't see the chat yet. Okie dokie, looks like no. So we can jump to the next topic. Unfortunately, I don't see Aaron here in the call. So we agreed last time to discuss today. Maybe Thomas, we can approach him over Slack and have a follow-up on their use cases for Brandwatch. Then
makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't see any new face here compared to yesterday meeting on the maintainer track for discussing the refinement of the tickets, for discussing the documentation, how it should look like. So yesterday we discussed this PR from Mac, and we agreed that we should move things instead of having this more user-facing documentation in the code, should be a markdown file in our website. And for this, Mac propose a new PR. And let me open the Netlify link so we can have a nice view of it. And the idea is to have the CRD reference with a more user-facing type of documentation, where every field is described in more details, so you know what this is about. And instead of having the API reference with a technical discussion about exactly what are those fields, what you can use them for, what is the expected value for these fields. If you like it, nice. If you're not, please provide feedback on the PR. But too far,
yes, I made up some information to make it work. And yes, I've got some build problems right now. I'm working on them, but
yeah, we see it's just a draft
yeah.
PR. But thank you, Meg. I think
So,
this is a very nice documentation. Yep.
But do I understand this right, that this proposes that we are managing the CRD references on our own?
Yes, CRD reference would be user-facing documentation, and we will maintain that manually. API reference instead is auto-generated from the code.
And did you see it mine at the bottom of that right now? I've got it under C also. I'm not sure that's why I want it, but I have links back into the API reference.
Is it in the
CRD
task?
reference? Go CRD. I didn't go from, didn't want to touch that existing one.
Here.
But see down at the bottom?
Yeah.
That links into the API reference then.
And but in I'm not sure if we are maintaining information twice here, and the biggest problem I see there is who maintains it.
I do. It's a
Are you sure?
We need, yeah. The duplication right now it is I'm using as my source a lot of the stuff that's in concepts, yes. But if we get this done, we will get rid of it'll replace what's in the concepts. So no, we will not be double dishing on the information. Okay. And yeah, it's primarily, I mean, I always appreciate somebody telling me, hey, I broke this or whatever. I will need some of that help, but overwhelming for the writing effort. That will be a writing effort. And you're free to throw an issue at me that such and such needs replacing, or this needs to be added, or this is just wrong, whatever. But you don't have to do the work.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mike.
Yes, but what I just wanted to say, the reference is old, is already old now. Because I saw now that we are heading towards an old API version.
As Mike said, this is just for showing that it works.
Yes, but this is also not against something or whatever, but we should be very careful with this kind of documentation, because these things might change very often in the next few months, I think. I think we switched API versions at least in the last 3 versions 2 times, and someone has to take care of it, even if we don't, even if the development team doesn't take care of it.
Right, but we also need to communicate that information to the users. So,
yes, but we are thinking normally of the examples, and we are automatically generating the CRD reference. But I'm not sure if we want to have to, if we want to have another point where we have to take such things out. But that's only my take on it. So I'm not totally against it, but we have to be very cautious with the information we maintain by hand, especially in such things.
Right. And one thing I need to document is, now what I don't know is if I'm upgrading from an old KLT release to the new one, and there is a new library, do I have to update my YAML files for the new library, or can I use the old one? Or, you know, is it a mix? Is it, if there's new features in the new one, I have to upgrade, but otherwise the old one might work? I do have a space on every page for differences between versions where we will record that. So I think it's going to be a lot of work to get these initially set up. But I think
didn't we agree on using the samples? So then for each version, you should have a sample that works
right
according to it.
And there is a place for examples. I started looking at the examples, trying to find this, and I don't know what I'm looking at. So I will get better at reading the source code too, as you explain to me what stuff is.
What I would expect is that we point to the files that are in our sample folder according to the release version.
Yes.
No?
Yes, exactly. Under, the examples we can put in an annotated. I don't know. Andy keeps saying Andy wants and examples in there, and I'm not sure that I'm completely. I think I'm more comfortable linking to the others, although I'm realizing just, you know, a link to the top of examples isn't very useful. We've got to link them into where they'll see what they're looking for. So
I would say let's start with documenting things and see where we are going towards, because we are talking always about problems of the documentation. We're always postponing writing documentation. And I think let's start with description of the fields and slowly improving based also on the feedback of the readers.
Yes. And once we get the base up there, it's relatively fast. That's a nice thing about reference. It's relatively fast to make a change. So. So does this looks reasonable in general, just as the general shape to everybody? Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Except for the actual YAML in there, I would actually point towards the samples that we have in the GitHub repo directly, instead of having hard-coded YAML there again. Because that's actual duplication, like full duplication then.
Okay.
But that's an nitpick that we can also change later, honestly.
Because actually the synopsis there is not the same as what a sample would be. It has, you know, like variables in there. Or
the samples are not filled out, so you can put in there whatever you want.
Okay. And it may just be, I mean, I need to make a checklist of what I need to do at new releases, and it may be that I need to, if I know the right place to look in the code, I'm just going to have to run through all of these and compare what they've got with what's in the current examples and make sure there's a match. And if not, update and record that there's a difference between versions there. So. And I'm also, I think what we should do is move, like some of these, I've got a lot of questions embedded here, but if we're going to go forward with this, I will take out a lot of those and we'll have them in the background, but to get something up there fairly quickly and then it can grow.
Okay, so bottom line, documentation looks very good. Let's start to add more CRTs there.
Okay.
And I see that Aaron now joined the meeting, so we can go back to the previous point and maybe let's start the discussion. Today there is also Thomas. So maybe Thomas, do you want to start, or Aaron, do you want?
Sure. Well, hello again.
Hi there.
Yeah, I think maybe what would be good would be to it's nice to meet you, Thomas. Yeah, I guess it'd be good to know, like, if you've seen some of the recording from before and just kind of what were your thoughts, or was it clear? Should we go into detail about like kind of what at Brandwatch we were looking for more, or more like I don't know, like I'm more like I just have the ideas. I think it'd be good to have your insights on this.
And we can, I didn't
Um,
copy everything from the last meeting, but it's all below there too, if we want that.
I took a look on the recording yesterday. To be honest, not too deep into deep. But I have some takes on it. So on this and also some questions. So for me, it was not clear if you want to take actions based on the previous versions and so on, and if it's only about storing the version somewhere on the cluster where the lifecycle toolkit runs, or if you want to have a central place where this should be stored.
Sorry, continue.
Because at the moment, and I think this was a design decision we took for the lifecycle toolkit. We don't have any kind of database behind it. The only thing we have are Kubernetes objects. And at some point, I'm totally fine with storing information in Kubernetes objects as long as we can manage it and as long as it makes sense.
No, I definitely think this should stay stateless, just as how we did it with our in-house tool. For example, a lot of image repositories have search functionality, like Artifactory has their, what is it called? JFrog query language or something like that. And so if you're talking about Docker images, right?
No, I'm talking about the version information. So as far as I understood it, you want to have a table of artifacts and how they behaved in which version. And this is a thing which is pretty hard to accomplish, in my opinion, without a control plane. And at the moment, we also have no information about the images themselves. So we know about workloads, we know about applications, and about the things which are happening with them. But in fact, we are not really aware of images, which does not mean that we could not get aware of this. But this is a decision we have to take carefully.
I see.
Image is basically a workload.
Not really, because one workload can have multiple images. And therefore,
fair point.
This is not so easy.
Yeah, some providers will have that information. Like you can query Argo CD in our case, right? And they will tell you what's deployed, so you don't need to store it. But then yeah, you'll need a more generic solution, which I can see, like you don't want to be querying the cluster directly to fill in this information. I don't think that would really make sense.
And even if Argo has the information, we cannot assume that everyone uses Argo.
Yeah, exactly, of course.
So, and this was also the reason why I wrote yesterday that it would be a good idea to put your idea into words. Because I also think I don't even understood everything you mentioned there.
Sure. Well, I can give like a quick high level, right? Like essentially, I think there's a bit of a philosophy difference between like iterating over artifacts and using rollouts and rollbacks and canary deployments and really focusing on an existing flow, right? Where you either go back or you continue moving it forward with more percentage or promotion into your live environment, right? This is one way of doing things. A lot of organizations do this pretty much as state of the art, and I totally get it. However, at Brandwatch, one of the use cases that we'll run into fairly often is the need to roll back several artifacts previously and be able to see what's there, right? And so in that way, we just have kind of what you were saying earlier, right? Like just a table which shows what can be deployed and what is deployed in what environments.
Mm-hmm.
And so this really is kind of that glue, right, between these things, which is where we originally were thinking Keptn would be perfect for that. But also, yeah, I can see now what you mean, like with storing the deployment information, it's tedious to keep it stateless.
So at least in a way, we are doing it at the moment. So at the moment in the lifecycle toolkit, we know about one environment. So we have the information about what's deployed or which workloads and applications are deployed on this one cluster. If you want to go a step forward, have stage promotion and so on, this information will not be there, at least at the current state of the lifecycle toolkit, and therefore it's a bit hard to find such things out. The second thing we have is we decided not to take actions based on something. So if you want, we can store such information as what was the last working information, last working version, and so on. But the lifecycle toolkit by itself will never do a rollback, because this would interfere with GitOps principles. So the only thing we could do is we could change Git repositories. But in fact, on the cluster, we won't do a rollout. We won't do a rollback, because then we would make some changes on the cluster. The GitOps controller on the other side would find out something changed, and I have to get I have to get back to my desired state. Therefore,
Right.
this will get a never-ending story. And this was also the reason why we decided not to do some rollbacks or whatever. But we won't hold someone back from writing actions to do this. So
yeah, I think that was what we were aiming to do, right? Was a rollback would consist of triggering a GitHub action, which would then make the changes in the GitOps repository, and effectively that would be the rollback action. But again, I can see where you're coming from, right? With assuming now that you're using this type of automation, right? But the functionality is there, right? Keptn can definitely do this. It's not, you just have to trigger the whatever mechanism, the thing doer that you're doing to modify the repo. So yeah,
yes.
okay.
So we, in the meanwhile, also wrote a task to trigger a GitHub action, also a GitLab pipeline. So this would definitely work. Yes, the only thing which would be important for us, would be what use case you exactly have, and how you propose this to be solved in the end, given this information you have now. So I'm not sure, and I think Florian or the other developers might have more insights. I think at some point in time we stored the last version of an application or a workload. I'm not really sure. Is this still true?
What do
I
you
think
mean?
I think
Because we store all the different versions of the Keptn app.
Yes, but I think and I think I was the one who did this. But I think in the app or in the workload definition, we also store the last version, so the previous version, because from that we calculate the metric between the two. And then we would have some kind of a previous version for to do some rollbacks, or to at least to give you the possibility to parameterize the tasks. I think in the app
Maybe a version of Flo, Andre, Anna, Moritz, to
Previous
remember.
version, yes, there it is.
Yeah, it's there already.
The app
Previous
version.
version.
And it would also be interesting if we have this in the workload, and I think this is the same. So we should have the same in the workload instances, as far as I know.
I'm not completely sure if we have it.
Yes, there is also a previous
Okay,
version.
then sorry.
There it is.
So given this information, at least you could trigger a rollback if something or what you have the information about the previous version. The only thing we would need to do in this case is to store somewhere if this was successful or not.
But this would still only work for one state previously, right? You wouldn't be able to, for example, do 4 in reverse.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I can see kind of the technical challenge here with being able to keep things clean. Maybe what could be a happy medium would be to have a way of setting like inputs of things which it can be rolled back to, but that not necessarily are like states that are stored, but just entry points into starting a new deployment pipeline or a new promotion flow, right?
So at least we can also pass. We could pass over the last known version. I think for that we have already an enhancement proposal which is on the roadmap.
Okay.
For more versions, I'm not sure about if this would be good and if we should do this.
Yeah, I understand. I think I can see why this would be something you wouldn't want to put in the roadmap.
But I would still like, if possible, to propose a Keptn enhancement proposal with your idea.
Right. Okay.
Because maybe, we cannot solve this problem, this discussion here, but we can tackle this offline and slowly maybe build up a solution that solves real problems.
I think that's a good idea because there's a need for this kind of tooling in the CI/CD, CNCF space, right? And that's kind of where we ended up here in the first place is, we're not the only company building these in-house tools, right? And I think maybe if you wanted to appeal to a broader audience with Keptn, then these kind of features would go there. I'm not sure, what's the driving all of this. It seems a lot more about validation and testing, right? So maybe this isn't, but yeah, if we can have some hope for the future, that would be cool.
Yeah, so please, if you find time, propose an enhancement proposal so we can work together towards the solution.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then just a friendly reminder, Google Summer of, no, it's called Google Season of Docs, not Summer of Code. Do we have any project that we would like to work on? This question is toward you, Meg.
It seems like there's plenty of work, and then it's to get something that's sized appropriately. One that I do have in mind is to take on the aesthetics of the Keptn.shell landing page. The aesthetics and the content. There's old content. Simon's doing a bunch, moving stuff over to the communities, but there's all, I don't like the looks of the place, but that may just be me and it's not my call. I'm not a designer. But the stuff in the resources and the fact that anytime I'm in the Keptn v1 docs, I've got a link to get to KLT. But as soon as I go into KLT, I lose most of the links that are in the top. There's just a whole bunch of crappy stuff there. And it would be something that it would be a good project for somebody who's interested in sort of web documentation, and it would not involve getting, extremely deep understanding of the product.
I see some thumbs up from Rakshit, so we have also some volunteer to work on that most likely.
Yes.
I would suggest to sync with David because he's driving the proposal, or do we call it
Right.
the
And I need to go back.
application?
There, we had back way a long time ago, there were some notes. There were a couple of other things that we had in mind too. So yeah, if we're interested in doing this, and I've been trying to figure out if we were actually gonna go through with it, and we should define a couple of real projects. I'm actually happy to mentor any of these, but I need somebody else. So I don't know if anybody else is interested in mentoring on any of these.
Just as a friendly reminder, we have only 2 days. So
Oh, we need to, that's where we need to make an organization app. Okay, let me check
yeah,
with David then.
thank you, Meg.
I think I think I already told him that we'd like to do it, but let me make sure that we're officially doing something, so.
No, since
Good.
we have at least one project, we can apply.
Okay.
Nice,
And
thank you.
I think we're doing all of them, by the way, through CNCF, so that CNCF is the administrator. But, okay.
Then this question for Simon, most likely Peribolos status. What do we still need to do for this, and how we can change our repository permissions and have it that as a code?
Yeah, well, the code is more likely ready. There's still the discussion regarding membership and how membership is planned and how this will change or affect those kind of things. There's an issue open in the community repository. Wait a second. Where it's open by Thomas. It's number 240 in the community repository. And the question is how what is the outcome? Because this is actually somewhat blocking the. So there are 2 different approaches. We can merge Peribolos and then act actually on that, or how we proceed is more like the question is how we want to proceed here. It's not like I'm not sure what is blocking what or how we want to proceed, because this is somehow we have a change in structure of permissions more likely, because it's not just one project, it's sub-projects, and this is this RFE about. And the question is, do we just apply Peribolos and then change the documentation for it, or what will be the process regarding that? So, and who will take in the end care of redefining the contributor letter regarding this topic? No.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I would suggest let's go over with Peribolos, and because I would like to bring more transparency on who is maintaining which project. Just recently with this Docker Hub fiasco problem that we had, was impossible to find out of the box who is maintainer of which repository. So Moritz had to write a script that does that, and Peribolos would make this information visible to anyone. So we'll go ahead with Peribolos and then change it after we agreed on the result of this one.
No. Yeah, we can, the pull request is ready. I think there's just one repository in the meantime for the Keptn organization, which was created in the meantime, which is not part of that, the docs tooling repository. And the rest of it is actually, I think, merge ready. So somebody need to have another check, but I also think I'm not sure who has the permission to merge anything in the community repo right now, because the owner file also changed recently.
Okay, then.
Yes, I think only the governance committee can merge something on the community repo.
Ah.
Okay. Then we can follow up this asynchronously. Thank you, Simon. And I will then go to the next topic, your short docs and community update.
Yeah, I will just share my screen shortly, if that's okay. I will just share where I'm currently at, and the question is more likely then also. This will be now a little bit slower because a lot of things are happening in the community repository, and we need to wait for the governance board to approve those things because of the code owner file. This is maybe also something where we might want to think about maybe if we want to change a little bit about the code owner file and define clear section, which are where we do need the approval of the governance board, but other section, for example, like the GSOC part, for example, the mentorship guidance, we do not need governance approval for changing, adding project ideas or things like that. So currently I have this draft pull request open, which already generates this nice preview, or I took the, oh no, I took the wrong one, sorry. GitHub. Yeah, here it is. So we now have this community, as I showed this already, what I wanted to do, but here we have now this better overview where we have this community template on top where we have all those community files listed up here. So we can also then take all this rockstar information and things like that from keptn.github.io into the community repository and do not need to maintain those kind of files in two places and have them centralized, because this is just a Go module, which is included, and it's just the markdown files out of the repository. But there are a lot of changes coming up actually, because as I took a look at it, I refactored that we can even display all our Google Summer of Code information and things like that. And this is just a little bit of changes which I need to add and to fix. And this is just something which will be done in the near future. And with that, the question is, do we also want to have a Netlify build actually on the community repository? Because this is now just my community repository with the community page. So people can actually validate during pull requests if their changes are correct or not correct. And second question to that, if we want to have, for example, a domain like community.keptn.sh, where we are representing those changes. No. You're muted if you're talking, Johnny.
No, was still thinking. Domain, I don't think we need that. But that's my opinion. I don't know the rest of the group here. What's your thinking?
I agree. That's maybe a little over the top. I don't think we need to kind of over-engineer that.
No.
Netlify build, how hard is to implement?
That's nothing to do. That's easy. That's a netlify.toml and then adding it configuration-wise.
Then I will go with that.
Yeah. But then in the end, people can take a look at the documentation, can take a look at the files more easily. And I think it's also easier to maintain them if you have a web page rather than just markdown files. So also to have a web page to look at it rather than the GitHub overview.
But then if we do Netlify, we can create a separate page with community.blah anyways, but that's zero additional work.
At a later stage. That would be, my suggestion is take a Netlify build anyways, because we have then this overview, we have this, we can take a look at pull request changes immediately in a nice rendered way. And also we can take a look, and also we will see later on when we can start version the community repository with our changes. So it's something new finished up. And the include will then be better within our pages up. So where is this page now? Up here, we can then have a version integration of the community files more likely as a repository. In this way, all the content we're displaying is more standardized. Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, now that's it from my side, actually. That's just my 2 questions. I will create tickets for that and we can just talk about this. And the second question is, I shortly talked with Giovanni about setting up a 1Password account for Keptn, an open source account. The question is, where should I create this issue? Should I create it in the community repository, in the proposals, and the...
Yes, that's a very valid point. I have no idea how to request that because I know that the CNCF provides you an account with.
Okay. Yeah, the one for one password, you normally only need to open a pull request, and they provide you. Then you say, "I'm this GitHub, I'm this open source organization," and then you can write who should have access to that. I think it's handled with a pull request. Last time I did this is 2 years ago. I need to check, but it's not that hard. If there is something from the CNCF, maybe we use the CNCF, because it's also getting. I'm not sure if you a lot of you most likely have received the email from GitHub regarding two-factor authentication. This is also the important notice from my side. Check bots who do not have a two-factor authentication, because you need to provide a two-factor authentication also for those bots somehow. And you can use 1Password for that, actually. So
it's all enabled already.
Okay, yeah.
They're all on the 2FA. I have access, and I think Giovanni has access.
Yeah. I also had a look into people, and I see that everyone part of the org have two-factor authentication enabled. You can see that everyone has the check mark.
I
So
think we are
safe.
requiring that anyways in the org.
You can set this
Not
as an
sure.
org.
I think we have it set to mandatory in the org, but I'm not fully sure anymore.
I think I was forced when I started, but I'm not sure if it was because of Keptn or because of Dynatrace. What about
Keptn, most likely, because we enforce it.
Like Raksheet, do you have two-factor enabled on Git?
Yes, I enabled it last week.
Okay, you weren't forced to initially though, right?
No.
Okay. So the bigger risk might be our community contributors to make sure that they know to do this.
It's a global setting anyways. Everybody needs to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
If you see here, in order to get into the organization, you need to have two-factor authentication. Otherwise, I cannot send you an invite.
All right.
And I think since is the CNCF that is owning our organization, they set that up most likely. But Simon, I was looking here in the CNCF tooling that they provide us is a Zoom account, which is the one that we are currently using, but also LastPass, 1Password, and Keybase to manage and share secrets.
We want to have 1Password, I think. Keybase is not necessarily the right tool for us in this case. It's more specific.
But here there is the
keys and stuff like that.
Yeah, there is here the list of things to be done.
I can start setting this up, but I will not put myself into the list of persons with passwords. So I happily create this pull request for 1Password, etc., to generate this for Keptn, and I put Giovanni and Moritz in there initially as admins, let's say that way. And for the rest, migrating secrets and things like that, I cannot, or I should
We can take care of that, yeah, no
you.
worries. Then, thank you, Simon. Next topic question. Who brought this?
Meg, I'm sorry, I'm the culprit.
No worries.
Because I said we had a couple minutes. I think I know some of the answers here, but I just wanted it to be a public thing. I'm getting hosed on some of these things, and some of it's legitimate, but I just wanted to know what the status is. We have
the issue hasn't been worked on. I can tell you that much.
And does it need to be? I'm having, without doing details, and I could do details, I'm finding that I'm not sure I agree with all that the markdown linter is doing, and I know we can control some of that. But I think the one that just got me is I think I got busted on having a space between list items in the bullet list. And I've, most of the markdown documentation sort of recommends that you do that when you've got long items to make the source file more readable. I'm not 100% sure that was what the problem was, but and some of these things I don't know you know, obviously if you have it past TCO, you're not going to merge. But Simon, which of these are any of the doc tests just advisory at this point? Or are they all blockers?
It depends on what kind of rule it is. Some of them are warnings and some of them are blockers. So
you mean within like the markdown checker?
Yeah, we have in the markdown checker there. Yeah, the XREF checker is blocking, for example, and the XREF checks are blocking because we do not want to have malicious or bad words in there. And the other part is, for example, here we have markdown rules, no multiple blanks, no inline HTML. Those are, for example, we do not want to have people writing custom HTML because with that they could style whatever they want. If there is a reason, we need to take a proper look at it.
Right.
And the other part is, for example, multiple consecutive blank lines. One blank line is fine, but multiple ones are, it's the question. So it does not complain about one, it complains about multiple ones.
I had about 6 of these earlier today, and I went in and removed the single lines between list items, and it cleared up the error.
You can always run make markdown lint minus fix locally, and this will take care of all those errors. There's no of most of those errors. There are some errors which are fixable. So blank lines, markdown lint can fix. HTML elements inline, it cannot fix because it does not know what to do or how to replace them or what else to put in there.
Okay.
But make markdown lint dash fix will fix all kind of markdown lint issues actually. And with
okay, we should actually, I'll talk to you. I'll get that documented in the contrib file. That would help too.
Markdown lint is without a dash. Yes, markdown lint minus fix is the as the command. And when this is run, it will try to fix as many problems as possible, what it can fix. And we also have a second pull request open, which also adds additional rules. Like we had this issue with the GitHub admonitions doing that. So we have a custom rule, then fixing those and putting them in the proper format that we have the better rendering possibilities, and also the maximum of 1 sentence per line rule is also in there actually, which will also fix the documentation and reduce, also bring in some more breaks in the paragraphs. No.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are obviously good things. Just everybody needs to know what the status of it is. And so I thought we'd make it an official part of these minutes. And cool. And those are the 2 big ones that we've got, right?
No.
Oh, for record, shall we add that there is work ahead so that the doc checks won't run on software PRs, and the PR checks or the software checks won't run on doc?
This is done already.
This
is in place. This is done, but there are some yeah, how to say, some Git specifics which you need to be aware of, because as soon as you do a merge, for example, and merging main in there, and somebody has changes in the software repository done, and this is part of your merge, your change set of the pull request, although it's not visible within the pull request, your change set contains changes in the software files, and that's why it's running. So instead of doing a merge, a rebase is a little bit better, because then you do not have those changes in there, and the CI will not be triggered for those. Also the Go things will not be triggered. But that's
okay.
So if you
should go offline and look at the contributing.md file, because some of this needs to be updated, I think. And then we can all follow.
I checked. There was no. I searched. There was nothing mentioned from. As I searched for the git command, git merge, and I did not find it in our contribution the last time. So, but this is something where we, so instead of git merge, git rebase is most likely better, because you do not get this change set. change set. How to say? Into your pull request or into your change, so the changes from main into your change set. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll
We
shut
should
up now.
also, based on the documentation from Giovanni or what you wrote in here, we should maybe add in as a side note that people should be aware of doing git push force with release if they do a rebase, most likely, so that they're not, so if there are changes that they are
point,
not,
yeah.
that they do not do git push force, they should do a git push force with release, so that they do not change or have any kind of side effects they are not aware of.
Do you remember the correct flag name?
Force minus with minus lease.
Thank you.
And we do have, well, some of the new contributors are working on the contributing guide where we're going to pull a lot of the details out of the contributing.md files. And there is one in there that's the quick of working with GitHub. And so we can review that and get this information recorded there so that everybody's got it.
On a side note, which would be actually maybe quite helpful, I think, I'm not sure if it's set up for the KLT repository, that you have your update branch configuration that you have on a pull request when you're out of date. I'm not sure, can you, I did not check, maybe you can change it that this is not a merge, but a squash pull request, as a rebase in the settings.
I think we have it. This is too new, I guess.
I'm not sure if you can set this up, honestly.
Okay, you can set that there is the option, but yeah, take this, change linting CLI and custom rules. No, most likely this is outdated.
But there are conflicts, so it doesn't work.
Yay, again.
Yeah, but currently is squash and merge.
No, but the updating, I mean, not the pull request option, also the updating to the main branch if you are.
Yeah, I don't think you can actually configure that.
So you mean when you fix, for instance, conflicts directly from the website and then
Merge is blocked. No, there's no, but there is a button you can activate when you go to the settings, Giovanni. Yeah, you can there set up that, I think it's even on the main page if you scroll down here. You can further down at the pull request section, allow suggest updating pull requests actually. There it is. And with that, people at least do not have to do it manually on their own, but when they're in the pull request, we just need to make the people aware that they click rebase and not merge. So when you go down, oh, this is not is this outdated?
No, but
we need an outdated pull request somewhere.
This is from Renovate, so it does that automatically, most likely this one. Yes, no.
And he has another conflict. Yeah.
But I saw it already. Here it is.
Here and then when you click down here,
select,
you can select here update with rebase. That's actually something which is helpful here. So you do not need to do it locally, which might help people. Yep. Perfect.
Nice. Any last second item from the community? It looks like a no. So thank you everyone for joining and provide support. Have a great rest of your day and see you next time. Have a great one.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.